Last season, drafting Lucas Giolito crushed the hopes of many fantasy baseball teams, while drafting Dylan Cease brought others to fantasy glory. Who might be on the path to make or break your fantasy team this year? We'll discuss that and more on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Sports Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino, here with my brother, my co-host, Matthew Oneil.
Yo, what's good?
You can find us on all social media platforms and podcasting apps. Just search for Locked On Fantasy Baseball, and we'll be there. Please be sure to leave a 5-star rating if you listen on Apple, Spotify, or wherever allows you to do that. And if you write a little review, it goes a long way as well. And if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't subscribed already, just hit that little bell below, and we'll notify you every time that we drop a new episode. Please be sure to also, throw a comment and a like, because we love to talk fantasy baseball with you guys. Real quick, we've been asking, and you guys have been crushing it. We're very, very close to that 1,000 subscriber mark on YouTube. So if you could share this podcast with a friend or two or three that also plays fantasy baseball or just likes baseball in general, it goes a long way to help our outreach and help us grow. And we truly appreciate each and every single one of you. But we know what you guys are here for, and that's some fantasy baseball info. And today, Matt and I are talking about some of the biggest bust and breakout candidates for this season. We know many of you have drafts coming up this weekend, and this is information that you definitely want to know. We got a lot of great names for you today. And Matt, I know you got one that you're ready to talk about first. So, brother, let's hit it.
Yeah, buddy. Let's talk about Dansby Swanson. Dansby Swanson is somebody that everybody's coming off that high of last year, what he did, and greatest late pick, or even in some cases waiver wire. And you're all just like, wow, he's so good. But one thing everybody forgets is that Dansby was on a contract here and was playing for his life and playing for his livelihood. So I feel like Dansby overperformed just due to the fact that he wanted to get that paycheck, and he didn't just leave and he didn't just stay with the Braves either, because the Braves weren't willing to pay him because they knew who he was. And two, he went from the Braves, which is what made his stats so inflated in terms of the counting stats, and went over to the Cubs, which are, if you compare the two teams right next to each other, he went from a really good situation to, the worst possible, outside of being on the Pirates and all. Sorry, Pirates fans. But, I'm not snuffing on his year, because he had a great year, right? And 640 at-bats, he had 99 runs, 25 bombs, 96 ribs, 18 stolen bases, and batted .277. Now, that's all fine and dandy, but the problem is that I have is, he's only done .270 twice in his career. And then in 2016, his very first year, in like 145 at bats, he had a 302, which doesn't even count in my mind. He's really like a 248. He's a 255 career batting average. So I don't foresee him repeating that. On top of that, I mean, outside of 2021, the home runs have never really been there. 2020, 10, 2019, 17, 2018, 14. Even 2017, I'm sorry, I said 2017, 6. Like, he just never been that guy, right? The doubles were up too. The runs were up, because, 21 was 78, 2019 was 77, 18 was 51. Like, you look at this guy, and he's never really done these numbers before. And I get it. It's exciting. But also, too, I don't foresee a guy breaking out at his age 29 season. Like, it happens, but I think he's one of those one-hit wonders where, like, he was great fantasy value, but he's also one of those guys you look at and it's like, okay, contract year. And those are the guys you like to target too. Like, one of my favorite guys this year to target on a contract year, unless he gets signed by next Thursday, is Aaron Nola. He's on a contract year. Somebody I'm actually considering drafting pretty high just because he's on that contract year. So it's the same thing with Dansby Swanson. Let's see what's going on. But I don't think he's going to be that fantasy value that you're really looking for this year. So I'm staying away, and that's why he's my bust.
Yeah, Matt. This I fully agree with you. This is one guy that Matt and I are in full agreement on, that just Dansby Swanson is being overvalued this year. And when we're talking about bust, it might not necessarily mean that the guy is going to have an absolutely horrible season. Being a bust also has a lot to do with where you're being drafted. Dansby Swanson is being drafted as the 10th shortstop overall, pick 77.8. I currently have Dansby Swanson ranked as my 16th shortstop. So there's just not a lot of value there. If you're drafting Dansby in the top, almost 75 picks, you're kind of banking on that he has similar production than what he did last year. That Cubs lineup, he's not going to have the counting stats, as Matt already mentioned. I don't think he hits more than 22, 23 bombs. The 18 steals kind of look like an outlier, even though the base are going to be bigger. People should see a little bit more. I don't know if he gets back to that. And then as Matt mentioned, also that he's a career 255 hitter. So there's just not a lot of upside here with Dansby Swanson. So he's somebody that I'm really really avoiding this year. And there's a lot of better options later at shortstop. Right after him is Oneil Cruz, Andres Jimenez, Gunnar Henderson, Tim Anderson, Wander Franco, and Carlos Correa are all guys that I'm drafting over him. So that's definitely, I'm just definitely more better options at shortstop later on as far as value goes. But let's keep it moving here, guys. Next up, we got Rhys Hoskins, right? So once again, this goes back to what I was just saying about Dansby Swanson. Is not that I don't think Rhys is going to have a decent year. He's just being overdrafted so much. He's moved up to the 8th first baseman off the board. 97th pick overall. Just so many guys after him that I really like. Rhys did have a pretty solid year last year in 3 out of the 5 major categories. But once again, guys, it's just that I'm not a huge fan. He did hit the 30 bombs last year. He had 81 runs, 79 RBIs, and he had 246. He's a 240 hitter, which isn't going to kill you, but it's not helping you either. He doesn't steal any bases. And, as far as that lineup, it's very good, but no Bryce Harper to start off the year. Just Rhys Hoskins, where do I have him at first base? I'll just tell you where I got him right now. First, I have him at 16th, and as I said, he's coming off the board 8 picks higher than that. Just not somebody I'm in on this year.
Yeah, I got him as my 11th, but it's not somebody I feel comfortable walking away as my, you know, it's just it's not favorable for his for him and or for you when you draft him as your starting first baseman. But let's move on here. I think Dom did a great job here. Let's talk about Mr. Bryan Reynolds. Bryan Reynolds is only here because of the fact that he's on the Pirates. Bryan Reynolds had a decent season last year. He had 542 at bats, which means a full season. He had 74 runs, 27 home runs, 62 ribs, 7 stolen bases, batted 262. Now, you look at that, and as I say, you're probably like, man, he's crazy. But the thing is, though, that's ultimately his ceiling. I mean, the only thing I could see improving for him, in all honesty, is maybe his runs, and that's because of Tyler O'Neill. I mean, not Tyler O'Neill, I'm sorry. And Oneil Cruz. It's been a long day, guys. But like unless they somehow bring somebody else in or somebody decides to step up this year, the opportunity to either bring him home or have runs on base for him is going to be slim. So I don't foresee the counting stats being there. So I think ultimately the ceiling is pretty much last year, which isn't bad. I'll take the bombs, but the other production is not great, and it's not like he's hitting 300 for you. He's really just he's done 300 in 2021 and then in 2019, but last year he was swinging a hit, and if he's trying to hit, let's see what happens. I don't know. I just really don't trust Bryan Reynolds as, let's put it this way, where he's being drafted as your outfielder 3, and I'm not in on that. I think the reason why he's a bust is because he's going too high for me. But yes. So before we let Dom take his take on this, and give his Bryan Reynolds take in, he might disagree with me. These days, every new potential hire can feel like high stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% sure that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team fast, and for free. It's super easy to create a free job post on LinkedIn. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. Small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number 1 delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your free job at linkedin.com/lockedonmlb. That's linkedin.com/lockedonmlb to post your job for free. Terms and conditions may apply. And don't waste your time dealing with bad bad candidates. Just use LinkedIn Jobs and get the best possible person. So, Dom, it's on you, man. Let's give some Bryan Reynolds takes.
Real quick, Matt, with that LinkedIn thing, I think what you're trying to say is people don't want to bust as their candidate there.
Love it. That was frisky.
All right, guys. So we're back in it here, and you know what, Bryan Reynolds is it's tough. It's tough because let's look back at that 2021 season, right? And he was on that crappy Pittsburgh team. He had 93 runs. He had 8 triples, 35 doubles, 24 bombs, 90 RBIs, 5 steals near 302. So there is upside there. And also the thing is with Bryan Reynolds, I don't think the Pirates want to pay him. The Pirates never pay anybody. So we could see like a mid-season trade to where he goes to a contender and that kind of boosts things up. But let's get back to that bust side of things, because right now Bryan Reynolds is coming off the board as the 21st outfielder, pick 84 overall. I have Bryan Reynolds my 29th outfielder, so that's about an 8-spot difference. And he is almost being drafted for that 2021 season upside. And you really never want to draft somebody for, you know, their best season or their peak. You kind of want to draft them towards like a median type of thing. And I could see why, you know, Matt has Bryan Reynolds as one of his bigger busts. And I don't know if I'm fully on board with him as a bust, but I can see where it's coming from. And he is being drafted a little bit too high. But guys, we're going to move on here. We're going to talk about our next guy. And somebody that's been getting a lot of hype, but it may have cooled down a little bit. That's Jake McCarthy of the Diamondbacks. I know I got the Diamondbacks jerseys on, but I think it's for maybe the wrong reasons today. So with Jake McCarthy, you know, the thing is he's actually having a horrid spring training right now. In 10 games, 29 at-bats. He only has 5 hits, no doubles, no triples, no home runs, no RBIs, 1 steal. He's also been caught stealing once, and he's hitting 172. So it's just really looking like he might have been a one-year wonder. In the minors, he was never really great. You know, he had a good 36-game stretch last year in the minors, but before that, he never really did much besides steal bases. And I mean, he had that 115 homer season in 2021, but I don't think he has, you know, a high grade power. The runs and, you know, RBIs aren't going to be great on that Diamondbacks team. I'm not sure where he's going to hit because Corbin Carroll's hitting first. So Jake McCarthy might be hitting like 9th or, you know, lower in the lineup. So I don't think the runs are going to be good either. And I don't think he's going to hit for a great batting average, maybe 260, 270, possibly. But, you know, I mean, that's helping a little bit, I guess. So if you get in 2 out of 5 categories from Jake McCarthy, where, you know, he's being drafted right now, fair, not too high, but let's see actually, where is he going? Oh Lord, I cannot find him. I thought maybe it is earlier than I thought it was. Yeah, the 29th outfielder for Jake McCarthy. Come on, pick 118. Right after him is Chris Bryant, Taylor Ward, Castellanos, you know, Ahmed Rosario, who I actually love, and it's just so many guys later than him. And that's really what I think truly makes a bust, is when you're taking them too high and there's so much talent behind them. I have Jake McCarthy buried in my outfield rankings. I think he's in like the 50s. So, you know, just somebody I'm definitely not targeting this year.
Yeah, I mean, Jake McCarthy is, you know, first I was a little high on him, but what do you call it? But I just, at this point, I'm not feeling comfortable, especially after that spring numbers. But let's move on here. Let's talk about Mr. Tyler Oneil. Tyler is interesting because he has all the upside in the world. He literally is like Byron Buxton light. If he plays a whole season, he can actually really produce fantasy wise. And in 2021, he almost did it. And that's the most he's ever had, by the way, in terms of at bats, at 482 at bats, which still is not a full season. It's 138 games. And in that season is great, though. It's 89 runs, 26 doubles, 34 bombs, 80 ribbies, 15 stolen bases. So he's chipping that in and batting at 286. Now, I don't know if that batting average is actually real, but hey, he did it that year. But every other year, last year, 334. I'm not going to count 2020, but in 2019, 141 at-bats, which is 60 games. And in 2018, 61 games and 130 at-bats. So the guy can't stay healthy. Like, legitimately, like, I always complain about Alberto Mondesi, but he's in the same boat. You might have the case of the O'Neills. Like, I mean, my man just can't stay healthy. But the upside is outrageous. So, like, yeah, I'm drafting him, but the price that he's going at is just not good for me either. Like, I can't risk a guy that I'm going to draft in the top 100s where I think are like right outside the top 100 and be my starting out, right? And be my third outfielder. Like, it's just not realistic for me. Now, I have him ranked decently high only because it's pretty ugly, but like at the same time, it's a risky pick. Like, I have Byron Buxton high because it's out of respect, that upside. But at the same time, it's like, yo, that is a risky pick. And if I'm on the safe side when I'm actually drafting, the conservative side of me says, let me go with somebody else. He has real potential to really blow up your draft and put you in an awkward spot once you're midseason and my guy goes down. So I'm avoiding Tyler Oneil, even though where you'll see him in my rankings as outfielder 26. It's weird, I know, but at the same time, you got to give the respect. But again, I'm avoiding him even though he's where he is.
Yeah, Matt, I'm on board with you for the most part. I have Tyler O'Neill as my 27th outfielder. He's coming off the board as the 23rd outfielder. So you're almost having to take him as your second outfielder. And as Matt said, I'm looking at his injury history here, and it's a plethora of injuries over the last 4 or 5 years for him. And I don't feel comfortable with it. Matt stated the upside is there. He's also having a horrible spring training, 6 games, 14 at-bats, only 2 hits for Tyler O'Neill, 1 double, no homers, 1 RBI, no steals, and he's hitting 143 with 4 strikeouts, only 2 walks. Just definitely somebody that I'm not targeting him this year. He might have that big year, but it's probably not going to be on my team, unfortunately. So let's move to our next guy, and that is Whit Merrifield. Now, if you've been playing fantasy baseball for a while, you're like, oh, Dom, Whit Merrifield's going to steal 100 bases. Not really, not anymore. Guy's getting a little bit older, and, how old is he exactly? Let's get that, 34 years old. So, at 34 years old, you lose a couple of steps, and it's really just not it's not the same as it used to be. Last year, Whit only stole 16 bases, almost played a full season. That's 139 games, 504 at-bats, 70 runs, only 11 bombs, 58 RBIs, and he had 250. So even that batting average is on the decline for Whit Merrifield, a guy who is, coming off the board as I believe it's the 12th, yes, the 12th second baseman, pick 159 overall. I truly have him buried. I don't even want to let you guys know where I have him ranked because it's super, super low. Just I don't want him this year. He's not going to be on any of my fantasy teams, even with second base being as bad as it is. I'm looking elsewhere when it comes to second base this season. With that being said, guys, if you're like me and you have a full-time job and you like to hit the gym sometimes, but you need that little quick snack that's going to give you a pick-me-up that isn't high on calories but still tastes great, you got to try Built Bar. And I'm not sure how Built Bar does it, but these bars taste delicious while maintaining amazing macros. And what's even better is that they are healthy for you. Built Bars only have 130 calories. They have 4 grams of sugar and a whopping 17 grams of protein. And even if you're not hitting the gym, protein is very, very important to have in your diet. They come in unbelievable flavors like cookies and cream, double chocolate, coconut puffs, and my favorite personally is churro. And guess what? Now you don't even need to wait around to, get a box, because for years we've only been talking about being able to get your Built Bars at Built.com. And now you can just take a walk or a short drive down to your local Walmart or a Sam's Club and pick up a few boxes of Built Bars there. Guys, got to try some Built Bars. Absolutely love them. So with that being said, Matt, I know you got one of our boys up next as we transition over from busts to breakouts. And Matt, take the lead, my brother.
Yes, sir. So breakout of the year for me is one of them, at least, is Oscar Gonzalez. I think Oscar, we've heard us talking about him a lot this season, about why, like, that we're drafting him everywhere. Sorry, real quick. Um, I just think that the kid has so much upside, especially on that Cleveland team where, there's that young talent plus with Ramirez there that, they could really build something special there, unfortunately, for the Yankees. And he had a decent little showing in 362 at bats because he had 39 runs, he had 11 home runs, 43 ribs, a stolen base, and he batted 296. Like, I mean, that's nothing to snuff at right now. And I mean, quite honestly, I think he's priming for, keep that pace up because in the minors, he was pretty good as well. In 2021, he had 478 at bats, he had 70 runs, 31 home runs, 83 ribbies. He had stolen base, but whatever, and batted 293. He missed 2020, but in 2020 and 2019, he had similar stats. The guy looks like he's ready to break out. And don't let his spring, fool you, because right now his batting average is bad and whatnot. But we still got another week left. Still got to get a little groove on for the season, and things could change the second the season starts. He maybe there's more of a game time flow. So let's see what happens. Let's see what he can do. And I really think that Oscar G is not only going to be valuable, but you're getting him at a good price too. He's being drafted as almost your UT. You know, your outfielder 4, for instance. Like that's a great value on a kid that can put up 30 home runs if possible. And the team around him can give him 80, 90 home runs and not home runs, ribbies and runs. That'd be ridiculous. And he could possibly and bat for average. I think that Oscar G has so much potential that he's worth the pick, and he's one of my breakouts this year.
Yeah, man, I'm a big Oscar Gonzalez guy too. I have him in my top 40 outfielders. The thing is, what makes him really like a value, I think, is where he's going. Pick 192 overall. So around pick 200, you could snag him, get yourself a little, possibly bench player in your 5-man outfielders leagues. If you can get him as your 5th outfielder, I think that's an absolute score. I'm not reaching for Oscar G, but if I can get him around pick 200, I think there's solid upside. He has got some pop in the bat. Think he should have a good RBI total hitting in that Guardians lineup. Batting average, he's actually always been a solid batting average guy. So I think he hits you around, 265, 270, maybe 275 in that range. So I think there's a lot of value there with Oscar Gonzalez. But I'm going to keep moving on. I'm going to go with somebody that I personally love and I think has huge upside coming into this year, and that's George Kirby. Now, George Kirby is kind of, coming into his own. He's got a lot of good pitchers on that Seattle staff to learn from. He's got Luis Castillo over there now. He's got Logan Gilbert. He's also got Robbie Ray. So, if anything, he's going to learn how to strike some guys out. Now, Gilbert's not having the best spring training, but it's not bad. I like to see the strikeouts there, 6 innings, 6 Ks. He's given up a few too many hits, but you know what? He's only walked 2. So, the control is pretty solid there. Maybe he's trying a few things out. I heard he might have been working on a new pitch. I can't confirm that, but that's something I did hear. But let's talk about what Kirby actually did in his first year in the bigs. Last year, Kirby, as a 24-year-old, had 8 wins, 5 losses, 3.39 ERA across 25 starts, 130 innings, 133 Ks, and a 1.20 WHIP. Now, it reminds me of, Matt and I talk about this sometimes. Rookie pitchers come up like a Shane McClanahan or a Bieber, and they kind of a little bit high in that WHIP department. They usually put up a decent ERA, even similar to, somebody we're going to talk about, actually, I believe is coming up next, kind of did something very similar to what Kirby did last year. And now, see, that 130 innings from Kirby just makes me think, okay, he could throw 150, 160 this year. And I actually have Kirby super high. Let me pull up where I have George Kirby ranked before I pass this on to my brother. I have George Kirby ranked as my 27th starting pitcher. So I'm super, super bullish on Kirby. And Kirby's currently coming off the board as the 35th starting pitcher. So I got him almost about 10 spots over that. Pick 117 for Kirby. If you can get him as your 5, I think you're absolutely golden.
Yeah, Kirby's great. I have him as my 36, so I'm right there with ADP. Okay. I love Kirby this year. He's on a better team than this next guy, and the win potential is actually there big time. So that's the bonus, even though it's not a predictive stat. But let's move on to the no longer tease it, Mr. Nick Lodolo. Nick Lodolo is another one of those young stud pitchers that had a really impressive first year. Last year he had sorry about this. 103 innings pitched. He had 131 strikeouts. He had a 3.66 ERA with a 1.248 WHIP. That's pretty good numbers for a first-year pitcher, especially pitching in the Cincinnati Reds park. Not a great pitcher's park. Balls tend to fly out of the park there. So I like that he was able to still keep it down and be that kind of pitcher. I don't foresee him having like a Lowe's 3 ERA, unlike Kirby, who has the potential that's in a neutral park. I think this 350 to 366 range is pretty much where you're going to get Lodolo. I have Lodolo a little bit lower because of it. But at the same time, Lodolo has a massive upsides in the K department. And with the Reds getting bigger, the wins could come along with it. He strikes everybody out. His K per 9 is always great. Even in the minors in 2021, he had 50 innings pitched, and he had 78 strikeouts. I think that trend is really where it's at. I think honestly, a realistic season can be anywhere from 250 to 255. I'm sorry, not 250, 350 to 355 ERA with 150 innings pitched this year with like 180, 190 Ks. I think that's a really realistic goal and expectation of Lodolo based off of what he did last year. And if he does that, he's going to be a top 20, top 30 arm next year. So these young arms, this influx of young arms is looking real nice this year. Let's go, Nick Lodolo.
See, here's the thing about Lodolo, and I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing. So last year he was actually better at home, which is super interesting to me. In 12 starts at home, he had a 2.85 ERA, 66 innings, 88 Ks, and a 1.23 WHIP. Then away from a Great American Small Park, he had a 5.11 ERA in 7 starts, 37 innings, 43 Ks, a 1.27 WHIP. So I don't know if it regresses to the norm where this year he might have a little bit better stats on the road, or if he's learned how to pitch there in Cincinnati, maybe it evens out and he does wind up putting up a little bit better ERA and a better WHIP, and he just figures things out. I like Nick Lodolo a lot too. Kid's got absolutely great stuff. But let's talk about somebody who's also got great stuff now, and that's if you've been listening to the podcast, he got one of the coolest nicknames that we've given him. Reid Detmers. The meter's running. The meter's running, guys. So we got to get it going here. Now, the thing with Detmers is he's looked fantastic this spring training, and his velocity is up to around 97 miles an hour on that fastball. I know his breaking ball, his breaking stuff has got a little bit better velocity on it too. He was working on it in the offseason. Reid Detmers is only 23 years old, and in spring training so far, it's 4 starts, 2.08 ERA, 13 innings, 17 strikeouts, and a 0.76 WHIP. Now, don't forget, he's got Shohei Ohtani over there showing him a thing or two. And, Reid Detmers in his first full year actually had a pretty strong showing. 3.77 ERA, 129 innings, 25 starts, 122 Ks, and a 1.02 WHIP. I think the sky is the limit with Reid Detmers right now, and he is going so late. He is going super, super late right now. Let me see if I can pull up that ADP for you. 57 starting pitcher, pick 209. Get him as one of your last starting pitchers, and you will go out of this draft as happy as he possibly can.
Yeah. Detmers, great pick this year. Can't really say much more about him. I say let's just move on to this guy right here. Jordan Montgomery, former Yankee. He had a great season overall, even when he was pitching for the Yankees. My only issue with him is
better
he just
St. Louis.
Right, even better. I was going to get to that.
I'm sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. He's just not a K per 9 guy, so it will be a little bit under, but his performance will outweigh it most of the time. In the Yankees, he had 114 innings pitched with 97 strikeouts, so it's not too far off. It's not outrageous. It's almost a K per 9, and maybe you can tick that up. And with a 3.69 ERA, that's really nice. But when he got to St. Louis, it was even better. He had a 3.11 ERA, 63 innings, and he had 61 Ks. And the WHIP is always great. It's like a 108 and then a 109 with the Yankees. Montgomery shows a lot of talent and promise. He's 30 years old, which honestly, for me, at least how I look at it, that's when you're at that smart age, and like pitching is different from batting, and it's a chess game up there at the pitcher's mound versus, and I'm not going to dilute what pitchers go through. I mean, not what hitters go through, but it's more like checkers. You got to find the ball and you just got to swing. As a pitcher, you got to place that ball, you got to launch it right, you got to put that spin on it. There's a lot more that goes into pitching than hitting, in my opinion. So when you turn 30, usually that's when they really turn it on and they're smarter, they have better control, they make better decisions, better calls. And it looks like Jordan Montgomery is following that trend. So with not only him getting older, I really like St. Louis. I like the team around him, and he's going to have a lot of opportunity to be very successful this year. So draft Jordan Montgomery. I don't have his ADP. That's my bad, but
I got you covered, brother. The 51st starting pitcher, pick 167 overall. I have Jordan Montgomery as my 46th starting pitcher, so I'm above ADP. And I can't really add too much to what you said, except Monty has been over a K per 9 guy before. And it was only in 2021, 157 innings, 162 Ks. So I think he could ramp it back up and he can get there again. And let's just, let's see what he does. As a Yankee fan, I love Jordan Montgomery. But let's move on to our last guy. And I think we saved the best for last. If you're asking me, I think Matt agrees here. And if you've listened to the podcast before, it's the Italian breakfast, none other than Vinnie P, baby. Right now he's coming off the board as the 7th first baseman, pick 94, which is great, getting him around pick 100. And it kind of falls off a cliff after him. If you don't get, I look at Vinnie P as the last of the Mohicans. After him, it's Hoskins, Nate Lowe, Walker, a lot of guys with a lot of questions. But Vinnie P, kind of the thing that I like about him is when he came up last year, he struggled a little bit. And the thing is that after that, he said, I can adjust back to you guys. He said, okay, you know what? If this is what you're throwing me, I'm going to work on it. I know he didn't have a great WBC, but before he went out there to play for Italy, he was doing great in spring training. He played 4 games, 9 at-bats, 4 hits, a homer, 4 RBIs. He didn't strike out, and he walked twice, and he hit 444. And let's talk about what Vinnie P did in the majors last year while he was up. Played 72 games, 258 at-bats, 25 runs, 10 doubles, 10 bombs, 26 RBIs, chipped in a steal at 295. I think Vinnie P could hit around 280, 25, maybe 30 bombs, depending on how good this, Kansas City team could be. And they have a lot of upside with MJ Melendez and Bobby Witt and the rest of them boys. Even, Franmil Reyes is a sneaky name to keep an eye on. Guy is raking in spring training right now, and I think he's going to be hitting behind Vinnie P. So the sky is the limit for the kid, and I have him ranked as my number 6 overall first baseman. I think you take him with confidence this year, and you walk away, eating that Italian breakfast, feeling super good about yourself and your team.
Yeah, Dami did a great job with Vinny.
Thank you, sir.
Everybody, just draft Vinny P and you won't be upset this year. That's all I got to say. One last note before we move on here and wrap up. I do want to talk about some unfortunate news. Some of that would have been on this list, as Von Grissom was sent down today. It's very upsetting. I don't understand why. Adjust accordingly. But now he's a watch list guy, so just keep it out. He's going to be killing. He had an amazing spring. Good credit to you.
He went 3 for 4 today too, and he played great defense at shortstop. What is Atlanta doing? Oh my God,
I have no clue.
Yeah, Vaughn, we're rooting for you, baby. We're rooting for you, man. You'll be up at some point, raking like we know you should be. Just to keep your head up, kid. Hope you're invited on the podcast. So you don't want to come and hear people rave about you. You're invited on, brother. But guys, that's all for today. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. Check out our website if you already haven't. You're going to need some rankings coming into your draft weekend here. You got to print ours out very easily. Make sure you put it in landscape. Something that my brother Matt, told me to do, which I didn't listen, but I will do next time. Print them out, bring them to your draft with you. You walk away very happy. Our rankings are skewed towards head-to-head category leagues and roto. Point is too subjective, but I mean, you could still use them if you want, and you'll do great as well. But also, guys, thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. Your second listen should definitely be, Locked On Padres. We've been talking about our boy Javier. He's a great host, very enthusiastic, knows his stuff about Padres, and there's a lot of fantasy relevant Padres, guys. So go check him out, and we will be back tomorrow with a new episode talking about sleepers. But guys, until then, see you.
Peace.